Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. So we are here today with Chiron in the second house. We are going to be looking at both the wound followed by some practical tips and advice on how to heal. However, before we do get started, if you would like to know more information all about your Chiron sign along with your Chiron house, as well as your Virgo house within your natal birth chart and your 6th house respectively, then please be sure to check out my Virgo season / archetype ebook. So what I am going to do is I'm going to provide a link to that ebook in the description box below so that you can pick up your copy today. Alright, so with all those introductions out of the way, Chiron in the second house, let's do this! Okay, so what I am noticing with Chiron in the second house is really to do with the importance of physical security. So if you have Chiron in the second house, it may have been a situation where your physical security was disrupted in some way, or maybe you just did not feel comfortable. You could have been forced to shift your physical security. So looking at the second house as a rather grounded house, looking at it as a house that is more secure in its potential, but yet your security and you feeling secure, it was disrupted. Perhaps there was a situation where you had to move, like you were forced to move, or maybe finances were just really tight and really difficult for you and your family or whoever was providing for you in that regard. So looking at money, for example, money might have been scarce. Money just might have been a bit of an importance. Like, even if it was that you grew up where maybe you were part of a wealthy kind of family, money was still like the main priority. Money was still seen as, look, this is so important. Money really matters. So yes, there could have been a situation where there was poverty or there was scarcity or there was fear around money, but also at the same time, money could have been used in a humiliating way. Money could have been used as a way even to control, or money could have been used in a way that made you just feel like you were not worthy or like you just did not have enough. So you might actually be that type of person. If you have Chiron in the second house, you may look out at the world around you and kind of see other people with money and finances and such, and their material items and what they have, and you may think, oh well, I really want that, or I wish I had that. Why did I not have that growing up? There could have just been things that you missed out on, or like you wish you had but you didn't have, or maybe you even had plenty but yet it just wasn't enough. You know, and I think that this all stems back or strips back to physical security overall and your survival needs. So when it came to providing for you and your family, for just helping you survive, of course, with the likes of food, clothing on your back, certain items and materials you would have, you know, paying the bills, for example. So making sure there was plenty of electricity, making sure there was plenty of water. So all of these survival basic needs that we all need growing up for our development, maybe that was just really difficult in some way, okay? And so from that, you might have just grown with this perception that money's not there, money's not available, I don't have enough. There's just not enough ever, almost, with Chiron in the second house. And no matter how much you try to fill that void, or how much you go looking for money or looking ways to save money or budget money, it never becomes worth it, or you never see the value in it. So, you know, going by that with value, you may be this type of person that just either just spends money on the whim really quickly because you don't understand the value of what you're buying or what you're spending. Or you might go the opposite way and like hoarder things. And I'm actually going to explain a certain example just from my own experience, okay? I want to bring in my own experience, and that has to do with my own mother. my mother is, if my mother ever watches this, she'll probably kill me for bringing her into an experience, but I digress. My mom has Chiron in the second house, and she is this person when it comes to food, for example. She hoards things. Like, she will buy so many packets of crisps or so many packets of biscuits. Even when it comes to milk, she will not really take into consideration how much milk she already has in the fridge before going to buy more, and then it just puts food to waste. So with her, there can be food that goes to waste, but then at the same time, it's kind of funny because whenever I visit, she's quite adamant to share and be like, hey, have this food. Would you like anything? So while she saves and accumulates all these items, it's almost like she just wants to get rid of them at the same time because it's overbearing or it's too much. But yet, in the same regard, I do remember my mom would be very strict and stern over what we could consume whenever we were younger. Because of course, whenever you're younger, your parents have more control over your decisions and your choices. And when it came to certain foods that we would eat, my mom would just stand up and say, oh, you have to ask. You have to make sure that you ask before you have a chocolate bar or a packet of crisps or whatever. And personally, I think that for me and my siblings was good to have that. She grew up with 6 brothers and sisters just like me. She was also the youngest, just like me. And she unfortunately had to go into care. So going into a care home, which is something that with this placement, if you have Chiron in the second house, there may have been this type of situation where things were just really difficult financially, in a stable security way, where you were maybe forced to move or live somewhere else or have your physical security provided for you in a different way. And that in itself might have caused a trauma or neglect or rejection or just a scare. And this, to me, this kind of ties in very well, I think, with how the second house also is to do with our experiences as a toddler. So we're kind of, you know, still within the, we are within the early development still with the second house. And if within that early development you have something that shakes that up, you know, that really erratically shakes that up or causes a distress or a disharmony for you or a lot of discomfort, then that is going to potentially make you just feel like, oh my gosh, well, when's the next one? You know, I'm not safe here. There's always going to be something that's going to change, or there's always going to be something that's going to disrupt my harmony and my peace and my serenity. And that, I think, maybe in a psychological way, it puts you into this feeling like you need to have everything, like everything that you see as, right, I need to have this so I feel secure, I need to have that so I feel secure. But it's a question of, well, where do you draw that line? Because at the same time, it's never enough. So looking at materials and possessions that you possess, it could have been, for example, maybe you even had a stressful situation surrounding your items and materials where people would potentially take things from you. Maybe you would have a certain, or you had a certain item that you really valued and you really deemed as, like, you cherished that thing, basically. But then somebody else just took it from you and they didn't even care. They had no remorse, no empathy towards you or towards that item that you really cared about. And so I think that that can also be a potential trauma that you experience through it, or discomfort. Also in terms of your self-esteem. So the thing about this is that you may look at your material world as the thing that validates your self-esteem. And going along this lines of your possessions and your items and materials and things, well, what also might have happened is your clothing, for example. Maybe when it came to clothing, you didn't feel the most fashionable or you didn't feel the most stylish. Maybe you would compare yourself to other kids or other people in that department. perhaps you have this hurt or wound surrounding the types of items that you wanted your parents to buy you so you could wear those things and be stylish and be fashionable, but yet because of the money situation or because of the security situation, you didn't get those things. And so you might look around you and just compare your own fashion sense to other people, or think, oh, well, why does, you know, Kim have a new pair of Vans, or why does Peter have a new pair of Nike Air shoes, whereas I just have these cheap knockoffs from Primark or from the second-hand store or something like that. So there can be that involved, and so with that there may be slight jealousy towards other people's items and what they have in comparison to what you have. Skills and talents come under this house. So maybe you've never really felt like you're very skilled in a certain thing, or you're highly talented. Maybe you didn't have the opportunity to develop those things because of the being insecure or having your security disrupted. So I think moving forward with Chiron in the second house, it's important to really look at the things that you want to become skilled in, and looking at the talents or the things that you're really interested in, and just learning to develop those and build on those. Another thing that I want to touch on with Chiron in the second house though is, well, the second house can also provide more of an indication into your body. So whereas the first house, it's like your body structure and it's to do with your physical appearance, the second house I can see as the house that's connected with you looking at your body and realizing, like, I have a body, you know, I have hands, I have hair, I have eyes, I have legs, but also the items that you then buy in order to put onto your body. So looking at the fashion and the style as mentioned, but then also just looking at your body overall. There might be something about your body that maybe you wish you didn't have. You know, you may look at your legs, for example, or you may look at your arms and you may just think to yourself, they are so worthless, or oh my gosh, I used to use these things and now my body is just starting to deteriorate, or it doesn't work the way it used to. Maybe you have this placement and you've been in an accident, or you've developed an illness, or you've been hurt in some way that has left you in a different physical, like in a way that's different to how you used to be physically. Like maybe, for example, you thought that you were so strong, that your body was so strong, but then you developed an illness and now you just have this outlook that, oh my gosh, my body, like I look at my body and it's just let me down. You're looking at it as a separate thing that's almost outside of you, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so worthless, I'm so humiliated by this, it's ugly, it's horrible, it's hideous. So it's really important to really like nurture, care for, and attend to your body in a way that's not, oh my gosh, you know, because it's really upsetting, you know, because I'm gonna use my mum again as an example. My mum has arthritis, okay, and she, every time I visit, well, not every time I visit, but sometimes she'll mention to me, oh, I used to be as skinny as you, or I used to be able to do that with my body, or I used to be as flexible as you. So she'll say these things, and it's quite sad and it's a bit disheartening, because maybe she associates the arthritis with her body letting her down, you know? Right, so now we have discussed the wound itself, let's actually talk about healing. And of course, the thing about Chiron being the wounded healer, it is about essentially helping other people, and by helping other people, you can in turn help yourself. So, for example, let's say you have a child. You could be that type of parent who then raises that child more aware of money. You can help guide that child to be more attentive towards their financial needs, their physical needs, their security in that regard, and you can just really encourage them to think about how they can provide for themselves. So, for example, you could teach your child how to save. You can teach your child how to budget. So you could open up a bank account for that child from a really young age and then just sort of guide them and just teach them, okay, so do you know the value of money? Also when it comes to what they're buying, being attentive towards their items. And so for example, right, you could go be in the grocery store with the child and you could show the child the price. Hey, so this is £2. How much money do you have? You know, this could be a little thing. You know how with children, you can give them pocket money and they can use that pocket money to buy whatever they kind of want. You want to sort of guide them in a way to make their own decisions and choices, right? But you can use that item and then they can have their money in their hand and you could say, well, how much do you have, Joy? How much do you have, Louise? How much is this? And that gets them into this understanding of, this is what this costs and this is what I have. So it's things like that that can really help that child along. And by doing that, you also can essentially help yourself too, because then you start to understand the value of money as well. And also on that note, when it comes to pocket money overall, you could raise your child with that understanding of pocket money. So for example, this exchange, showing the child the importance of money exchange and energy exchange, because of course money's just energy, right? So you could be that parent that says, hey Joe, would you hoover the stairs? If you hoover the stairs, I will give you £2. Or if you take out the laundry or the washing, I will give you £3. And that gets that child into this understanding of, when I do something, I also gain something from it. But then that also for you, if you have Chiron in the second house, that helps you too. And not even if you necessarily just have a child, but this could be amongst your friends. This could be amongst your co-workers. So for example, you could go into a certain job where you then work with finances and you start to learn about money and you start to learn how to manage finances and how to sort everything out. And by entering into that role, you develop certain skills within that position and role that can also help you in your everyday life, or when it comes to you managing your own finances and budgeting. Also, another way I think is maybe by developing a certain talent or skill. So perhaps you enjoy knitting or sewing, doing something with your hands, or doing something that makes you feel calm. I think that's another thing to be said about this placement, is learning how to do something that centers you and grounds you and makes you feel stable. Maybe you feel like you missed out on what your comforts were growing up. You didn't really get to understand what it's like to be comfortable, to feel comfortable. And that can be financially, that can be physically. So maybe doing something where you can relax into that feeling and just breathe and just feel like, okay, I'm settled, I'm good. So that could be knitting, that could even be gardening. Also furthering on from that, not only can you develop your own talent or skill, but you can teach somebody else how to develop that. So if it is knitting, for example, you could show your children, or you could show your friend, or you could get together with friends who like to knit, or who like to draw, like to paint. So doing something with someone else where both of you are really getting something out of that. Also, I think a good way to help with this healing process is learning how to trust your instincts. Maybe you just are so used to buying biscuits every single day or every single week. That's the biscuit that I always get. I get 5 packets every week. But yet those 5 packets of biscuits every week, well, how much does that cost? And then you have to kind of think to yourself, do I need these biscuits every single week? And maybe by stripping that back and paying attention to your instincts are actually telling you, I don't need those biscuits. I'm just getting them because I've been so used to getting them for the past 2 years. You know, I hope that kind of made sense. But just doing little things like that, which also you can teach to other people. And the last suggestion that I have with the healing process is, well, when it comes to clothing, when it comes to jewelry, cosmetics, and just overall your items that you have, maybe try to think about how you can pass on items that you own or have owned and giving them to somebody else. So this could be to a family friend, it could be to your siblings, it could be to your daughter or your son, it could be to your neighbours. So it could also be to charity in that way too. So I think that by doing that, you're going to clear space. Of course, it's trying to get to that point, because I also understand that if you're a hoarder with Chiron on the second house, then letting go of certain items and materials may be difficult. But if you pass them on, maybe there's something to be said here about you're not actually putting them to waste, right? You're passing them on and they're still being used in some way. And maybe by passing them on, you may get something from that. You may feel a certain way about that, and that can maybe help you also. Right, so that is the Chiron in the second house video. So we talked about the wound itself, and then we talked about some practical tips and advice on how to heal. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button, and I will be back, folks, with another video very, very soon. Bye!